So yesterday, the UFC announced that there's some further details for Fight Island in terms of where it is, and yeah, who's fighting, who's going to be fighting on the first event. So UFC 251. It's actually been located in Abu Dhabi, and it's on Yas Island, which the UFC actually had an event here back in 2010, and it was for UFC 112. So it was Anderson Silva versus Damian Maia. They were the main event. They actually had a big event, a big card for that event. They had BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar. That was the co-main event. They had Matt Hughes. He fought Renzo Gracie. Rafael dos Anjos fought on that card. Alexander Gustafsson fought on that card as well. So it was actually pretty stacked looking back on it. But I think it's going to be a little bit different this time because Dana White said it's still going to have, it was rumored to have an octagon on the beach. So I think it's still going to be an octagon on the beach. Last time it was in like a stadium, it was the first event the UFC have ever done outside. So it was kind of like that boxing atmosphere where you get a stadium where all the fans are around and obviously the octagon was in the middle. But this time I think it's going to be on the beach. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but yeah, that's pretty exciting. So there's some further details with that and some details in terms of who's going to be fighting for the first event. So the fights so far, which are planned, we have Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. I'm guessing that's going to be the main event for the welterweight title. Apparently, the UFC tried to book Jorge Masvidal for the fight, and in terms of the financial situation at the minute with the UFC, there's a lot of fighters protesting. Masvidal, John Jones, and I'm guessing there was something to do with the pay situation why they couldn't finalize that fight, because Masvidal, obviously, he still wants a higher percentage of what he's going to be getting for this fight. He got a certain amount against Nate Diaz when they fought for the BMF title, and apparently, according to him, he was offered less to fight Kamaru Usman for the actual title. So I don't think he was too happy with that. And obviously he's protesting about pay. He said in the week, if you can't come to terms, if I'm not valuable enough, then let me go, release me. So I'm sure there'll be more to come for that. But they tried to book him. They also tried to book Leon Edwards as well. He announced on social media that he was offered the fight before Gilbert Burns, but due to travel restrictions at the minute with COVID-19 situation and him being in the UK, they couldn't make that one work. We also have Alex Volkanovski versus Max Holloway too. So the rematch between those two for the featherweight title. If you watch the last fight, Alex Volkanovski put on an absolute clinic against Max. He really did. He picked him apart with those leg kicks. And for the full 5 rounds, you just couldn't doubt that Alex was the true winner of that fight. It wasn't even close. And I really like Max Holloway. And what I will say is, for this rematch, you can't count Max out completely. I know that the first fight was quite one-sided, but you can never, ever doubt Max Holloway in a fight. I don't care who it's against. He's proven himself so much since he's been in the UFC and throughout his whole MMA career. I just think he's got to come up with a different plan this time in terms of trying to avoid any form of leg kicks from Alex Volkanovski, because they had so much damage on him last time. And I think the leg kicks kind of resulted in how fatigued Holloway was continuing on for that fight. So I'm really excited for that one. It's going to be a great fight, I'm sure of it. Pierre Yan versus Jose Aldo for the bantamweight title. So no hate towards Jose Aldo. He's one of the best featherweights we've ever seen, undefeated for 10 years. One of the best fighters we've ever seen as well, especially inside the UFC. He moved up to bantamweight and he lost against Marlon Moraes straight away. So that was his first fight at bantamweight coming up. And then he's been granted this title shot. And I'm not a matchmaker in the UFC, but I personally, I don't think he should be granted a title shot when the bantamweight division is absolutely booming as much as it is right now. And, even more so from UFC 250 as well, because that event last weekend was so good in terms, it genuinely delivered. And the bantamweight division from that, it's like these sparks have just been lit from all different angles. Cody Garbrandt's back in the mix as well. Amazing knockout against Rafael Asuncao. That was just unbelievable on the buzzer, just to make it even that more sweet. Sean O'Malley with a great knockout against Eddie Wineland as well, which was just fake the uppercut, boom, overhand right, and put Wineland to sleep. And then we had Aljamain Sterling fight Corey Sandhagen, which that fight didn't go anywhere near as I thought it would. I made a prediction that it would go the full distance last week when I did my UFC 250 picks and predictions, but Aljamain Sterling just looked scary fast, like really, really quick on the feet. And when the fight went to the ground, he saw an opening on Sandhagen's neck, took it, and he got the win there. So yeah, Aljamain Sterling is definitely going to be asking for that title shot next after the Pia Yan and Jose Aldo fight for sure, and well deserved as well. We also have Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade, the rematch there. So their first fight, I remember I think it was 3 minutes into the second round. We also have Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. So this is the rematch. This is the second fight. The first fight, it was in the second round, and they were sort of against the fence. And Jessica Andrade just picked Rose up and she slammed her down. But it was such a sickly knockout because she landed on her neck, Rose, and she was pretty much out, I'm guessing, from there. And Jessica followed up with a few punches. But yeah, the referee stopped it straight away because that knockout, it was from the slam. She just went out cold. So I'm looking forward to seeing that rematch. Obviously, Rose is going to be looking to avenge that loss for sure. And then we have Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zandt. So they're the fights so far that have been announced for the first event on Yas Island. So that'll be on July 11th. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more fights to be announced in the coming weeks. So UFC 250 wrapped up on the weekend. And I remember thinking afterwards, like, the bantamweight division is just on fire at the minute. You know, two amazing knockouts, Cody Garbrandt's knockout, Sean O'Malley's knockout. They're just unbelievable to watch. And then I remember checking my phone and I seen Conor McGregor put a tweet on Twitter saying that he's officially retired. And, you know, I didn't know what to make of that. So, like, when I first read it, because I thought, this is the third time he's done this. I don't know whether it's legit, what to make of it. But if it is legit, you've got to be able to say, fair enough. You know, you've made over 100 million, well and truly more than any UFC fighter has made, any mixed martial artist has made. But for him to come back in the octagon, I think it's got to be something more than the motivation of money. That's when you first start your career. I'm guessing for Conor McGregor, it would have been money motivating. You know, he can sell any fight he can sell. The pay-per-views on their own, you know, they speak for themselves. But the motivation now to get back inside the octagon has got to be to solidify yourself, to say, look, I'm the greatest. I did this. You know, I'm going to go down in history. And he already is going down in history. You know, he's the first ever champ inside the UFC. And you can't deny that he's had some amazing fights. But to truly solidify yourself, and from a mixed martial artist perspective, to want to be able to prove I'm the best martial artist in the world, that's what's got to be the motivation for him to come back in the octagon and fight again. But he was saying that it's the lack of motivation towards his opponents. So no motivating fights, which from an outside perspective, I'm thinking, all right, so let's list it. So you've got the Nate Diaz trilogy fight, which everyone wants to see that. You've also got Masvidal for the BMF. When things sort of clear up as well with the whole COVID-19 situation and he's able to fly, and, you know, I'm not too sure on the restrictions right now, but he's also got that fight he can look forward to for the BMF belt. He did say he wanted that fight as well. Originally, Dana White made a comment when Conor McGregor said he wanted that. Dana White made a comment saying Masvidal was too big for McGregor, but McGregor didn't like that too much. So that's got to be a bit of motivation there to want that fight. Then you also have Anderson Silva as well. That's a fight that's been talked about in the last few weeks. You know, that's still going to pull in a lot of sales. Everyone's going to want to watch that fight. I want to watch that fight, you know. You got Tony Ferguson as well. He was coming off a loss from Gaethje, but he's going to want to be fighting probably again soon. And, you know, they've also got a past with each other, exchanging on social media a few years back. And then you also have the winner of Gaethje versus Khabib, which will be towards the end of the year. I think it's September. So there's so many fights there which you could look forward to, which will be motivating. So I can't speak for Conor McGregor, but I'm only speaking from an outside perspective. Those are big names, every single one of them fights. There has to be some form of motivation behind them. There has to be. And, you know, when Gaethje and Khabib do fight, he's going to be first in line for that title fight, 100%. And Dana White's already said that he will be next in line for that. So, you know, if it is all said and done, if McGregor is completely retired, then fair enough. But personally, I don't think this is the last we'll see of Conor McGregor.